You ever just wake up and remember something from ages ago that basically has no reason being in your head other than it just does? Well, yeah, that's why I'm here. What's poppin' YouTube? So one day while chowing down on some Hostess donuts, not sponsored, unless I randomly remembered a scene from a movie. One that was filled with action and adventure. One with life and purpose. One with deep themes and character building that many see as a masterclass of filmmaking and storytelling.
Save yourself! I ain't quitting you!
Oh, never mind, it's just not at the museum. Continuing our voyage of covering Ben Stiller films, for some reason, I thought, since I had the epiphany, that we'd take a trip down memory lane to Night at the Museum. This is one of those movies that lives in my head rent-free for no other reason than, I guess, like, I remember fondly watching this movie over and over again when I was younger, and I loved it to death. I mean, seriously, I genuinely used to watch this and want to be a night guard when I grew up because of how cool the atmosphere of the museum must have been. And then I saw how much they got paid, and I said, oh no, bro.
No,
But for those who don't know anything about what I'm talking about, let me tell you a bit. Night at the Museum is a fantastical comedy directed by, holy crap, Sean Levi directed this? Also, did I butcher his last name? And it was based on a kid's book by the same name. I actually like how the movie pays homage to the cover of the book with its actual movie poster. That's pretty cute. I also had no clue that this was initially a book. Similar case to The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, I suppose. You should totally watch that video, by the way. There it is up in the corner. Anyhow, we follow a divorced man by the name of Larry Daly, who, despite wanting to be the successful inventor, isn't really great at it and just bounces between jobs. He ultimately isn't setting the best example for his own son Nick, which is why his situation is so difficult. He can't land a stable job, and his son Nick is more interested in his mom's fiancée. He eventually gets a job as a night guard at the Natural History Museum in New York. Hold up, you're trying to tell me he's paying for a pad in New York off of a night guard's wage? This really is fiction. There's also these three old farts that work at the museum that kind of give Larry a general rundown and some instructions he has to follow to survive till 5 a.m. Anyways, it's during his first night that he realizes the exhibits get a bit quirky at night. God damn it, how many FNAF jokes have I made already? Please keep a counter at the corner or something. Listen, I know this movie might have been just an excuse to have a CG fest, but seriously, these effects look stellar. I can't help but feel like a kid again watching this. Grow up as much as you want, but you can't deny dinosaurs are always gonna look awesome. Larry, in an attempt not to be mutilated, decides he's gonna play fetch with the T-Rex instead. He then sees all the other exhibits coming to life, and it's pretty cool. Seriously, these effects don't look half bad for 2006. We then get introduced to Teddy, the president. No, not that one. No, not that one either. There we go. Who's played by Robin Williams. And he is noble, but also kind of a chicken. See, he has a fat crush on Sacagawea, another one of the exhibits depicting a historical figure. I butchered her name, didn't I? And then there's my favorite characters in the whole damn franchise, Octavius and Jedediah. I absolutely love these two's chemistry and friendship. They're just bros, and it's so funny seeing their petty rivalry from Larry's perspective, since it's like the equivalent of watching Legos fight. And the fact that Jedediah's first plan when meeting Larry is to have him be run over by a train. Obviously, since it's a Lego-sized train, that doesn't really work, but I love how charming their whole set pieces are. That's actually one of the film's biggest strengths. It does bring a lot of magic to these museums again. Like, I think everyone who's watching this video can still remember going on a school field trip to like a science center or a museum or someplace educational. This film is so good at really making me feel nostalgic and like a kid again. Props to that. Oh, and then there's this monkey named Dexter, and basically he decides to ruin Larry's night by pissing on him and assaulting him. You know, as one does. They have a little cute rivalry, but it ain't nowhere near Jedediah or Octavius' level. Also, fun fact, the name of the monkey that plays Dexter is Crystal, and Crystal had to be trained several weeks to bite and slap Larry. But after a long night of being chased by a T-Rex and degraded by a monkey and even getting into a civil war, good job Larry, the sun rises and they all return to normal and become still exhibits again. Unsurprisingly, Larry wants to get the hell out of there, but the old farts tell him to give it another shot. Also, Larry sees a hot coworker and can't help but try and flirt with her using his historical knowledge, which he has like none of, so he begins a montage of studying history. Not because it would help him do better at his job, but because he wants a historian girlfriend. Good job, Larry. Oh yeah, I guess he also ends up getting better at his job too, and is able to manage the exhibits more and contain them. But like, historian girlfriend. But yeah, he's able to pull little tricks on the exhibits to make them kind of be more tame, I suppose. It does end up backfiring, but he's getting the hang of it. Except for the Huns, they just want to murder him. He also forgot to lock the garage door, and a caveman from the exhibit sneaks out. And as the sun rises and he's outside of the museum, he turns to dust, reduced to atoms. Larry now knows how dangerous it is for these guys to be up past 5 a.m. on a school night. So he has to remember to lock all the doors and make sure that no one escapes. He then meets up with his son Nick and invites him to stay and see the exhibits come to life. But something different happens instead, and the exhibits don't come to life, and Larry doesn't know why. He then learns that the tablet, which has magical properties that enchant the exhibits, has been stolen by none other than the old farts themselves, who, holy crap, they know karate! They reveal that this tablet keeps them feeling young and strong, which is why their hands are licensed as weapons. So they want to keep this magical property for themselves. Larry's then locked up in the Egyptian exhibit, but then meets the mummy of Akhman Ra. I probably butchered that too. Who knows how to use the tablet and can help with Larry's dilemma. One motivational speech later, the museum decides they want to live, so they help Larry out. Octavius and Jedediah decide to slash the old fart's tires so that they can't drive off. Well, also, Teddy gets ran over and split in half, but he's okay because he's just made out of wax. But in that time, he also confesses to Chicago Way, and she's like, yeah, I like you too. The old fart ringleader, whose name is Cecil, I just remembered, I probably should have called him that instead, takes a carriage from the museum and continues that way. Larry chases after him and manages to swipe the tablet back from him. Only issue is that all the exhibits are now loose throughout New York City, which I still wholeheartedly believe isn't the craziest thing these people have seen. The Pharaoh, however, pushes some switches on his iPad and calls them all back. And yay, the museum is saved, happy ending. And now time for the part that lives in my head rent-free. Look, I know this movie got mixed reviews when it came out, and although it surprisingly was the 5th highest grossing film of 2006, earning close to $600 million, damn. But as I was saying, even though critics didn't like it and average moviegoers probably didn't care for it either, I just love it. It's such a fun film that I know isn't trying to be the next Oscar winner, and it just feels like it was done for funsies. The visual effects are pretty good, especially for the time, and they really are the selling point of this entire movie. Also, I'm going a little bit off script here, but the score for this movie is surprisingly really well. Like, the main theme for Night at the Museum is super suspenseful and perfectly encapsulates this mystery magic to why everything comes alive. It's a genuinely good theme. The score is done by Alan Silvestri and John Ottman, in case you were interested. John had actually worked on the score for Superman Returns, and Alan had worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's kind of cool. The tracks in this movie are just kind of encapsulating the wonder that I think a museum should make you feel, and I really love that and appreciate that about that movie. Honestly, the score kind of goes above and beyond, and for a movie that's described as a CG fest, that's a little bit of extra effort that made it feel all the more special. No doubt though that you can definitely tell the ideas of the museum coming to life and comedy came first before the actual plot. And yeah, that does leave the plot having a lot to be desired, but I still enjoy it. The story is more so a way to get to the cool, interesting aspects and the magical elements of the museum, and I kinda understand that. Similar how the Super Mario movie took a back burner on characters just to get to the interesting world building and all the cool things that happen in the Mushroom Kingdom. I think all the cast does an excellent job at their characters and have a really fun, unique charm to all their roles. Swear to God, you will never see these two not in a movie together. I think Ben Stiller does a great performance as Larry Daly as this sort of like normal guy kind of thing going on, and he slightly goes insane by the time the movie's over. He's a pretty fun protagonist to follow along though. And it's weird because for the most part he's kind of stiff, but when he interacts with all the exhibits, he becomes a lot more animated in his movement, and I can appreciate that. Out of the two Ben Stiller films I've had the enjoyment of seeing and reviewing on this channel, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is probably something I'm going to take its ideas further with me in my life, but I personally just enjoyed this movie a lot more. It's just so much more entertaining, I feel like. Although when it comes to themes and overall story, I think The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is the easy winner of those two. But this one is just such a good turn on the TV and turn your brain off kind of thing, and I love it for that. Oh, and in case you wanted to know what I would rank Night at the Museum, I'd say I'd give it a 6 out of 10 on my more critical side, but for the part of me that just loves it for what it is, and because I'm so nostalgic for it, it's an 8 out of 10. Take that as you will, I suppose. This was more of a way to maybe, remind you that this movie exists. And hey, if you like this video, maybe give it a rewatch. You might end up enjoying it more now that you're older. Or check it out for the first time if you've never seen it before. I hope you had a fun time revisiting a part of my childhood with me, and subscribe if you did. Leave a like to support this video, and I'll catch you all later. What a nice, simple film to cover. Oh, right. They made 3 of these.